Played a big role when I was in the management of the Gurdwara. We organized at least about 8 or 9 places where Sikhs children or Punjabi children were taught Punjabi languages in Southall and in Hounslow. And I was personally responsible for this one. And I think in those days there were about 600-700 children attending evening classes to learn Punjabi.
Our parents, the founding fathers of the IWA, many people in the IWA had actually experienced the same level of racial violence that we had done, the same levels of indignity on the street, in the workplace, in all fields, except they had built up an immunity in the sense that they kept their heads down. They were going to survive. There was almost an obligation on them to survive for the sake of their children and their future. And they took the punishment year in, year out. A time had to come when the next generation would inevitably say enough is enough. We had a choice. I believe our parents and people in the IWA really did not have a choice. They generated the space, they made the sacrifice for us to have the choice.
But we had a lot of problems in the school. There was a lot of discrimination against our lads. We were virtually picked on coming out of the school, going home, and you know, the white boys, some of them would just pick a fight or abuse you in any way they could. You could have been set upon anywhere walking down, from the Woodlands Road right down to Featherstone Road. But then we started to walk in gangs ourselves to protect one another. And you know, then some of the threatening behaviour ended. It didn't end, but it died down a bit because they saw a group walking together.
I used to go evening classes in other side of Southall, which was again all white area, you know, very few people, and it was dangerous. It wasn't easy. And we used to go as a group then for evening classes. Go as a group. You see a few guys on the across the road, you know, and you're outnumbered. Either you run, or you get beaten. But the opposite came as well. If we were more than them, then we'll have them.
Gurdeep Chaggar was a Sikh boy, and I think he was murdered down Featherstone Road. We just heard that a boy had been killed the following day after, you know. The word got through Southall that they've started killing people now, you know. And that's where Southall Youth Movement started, actually from that Dominion meeting, because all the groups got together. And then eventually we had more meetings after that. And that's why virtually, put it this way, all the rebel kids in Southall got together.
Southall Youth Movement was set up in Old Southall, Featherstone Road. They also set up an Indian Youth Club, which is at Tudor Road School, just off the Broadway, Tudor Road. Now we'd go to Southall Youth Movement, we'd learn photography, we'd learn the history of where our parents were. We know about the Gurdwara, the temples. We learn about things like music, there's a music room. We learn how to record digital sounds. In them days, you know, recording studios and everything. Misty and Roots were born and brought up there. Big major Jamaican band now. We used to go there to pass the time, any advice we need. If we were picked on at school, I remember saying to Diggs, you know what, I'm getting kicked in at school. Where's your school? Acton County, blah, 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 Reynolds High School. These guys used to take me to school sometimes, bring me back. And it was a place where, you know what, we could go as a unity and sit, get to know everybody, the old school boys, you know, us guys, you know, have a laugh and a joke. And it was our little movement.
You know, it was becoming very political as well, the youth movement. It was a forum for speech for the youth, basically. All our grievances went through Southall Youth Movement at that time.
We found out a couple of weeks before that the local authority had decided in view of the pending local government elections, that they were going to allow the National Front to meet in Southall Town Hall. There was a difference between registering the opposition that we dislike this National Front to a position which was ours, that we will not allow this to happen. We will not allow this to happen anymore. And it is not just for Southall. We have to take a stand for the whole of the country. It was the Spring Rebellion. Yeah? For us, it was a summer of awakening.
ਡੈਮੋਸਟ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਸਾਊਥਾਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਸ ਟਾਈਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੇਰਾ ਖਿਆਲ ਹੈ ਇੰਗਲੈਂਡ ਦੀ ਇੱਕ ਹਿਸਟਰੀ ਗਵਾਹ ਆ 10,000 ਮੋਰ ਦੈਨ 10,000 ਤੋਂ ਉੱਤੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਡੈਮੋਸਟ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੋਈ ਸਾਊਥਾਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਸ ਦਿਨ ਮੇਰਾ ਖਿਆਲ ਵੀ ਸਾਰੀ ਯੂਰਪ ਤੋਂ ਇੰਗਲੈਂਡ ਤੋਂ ਕਿ ਸਾਰੀ ਯੂਰਪ ਦਾ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਇੱਥੇ ਆ ਗਿਆ ਵੀ ਸਾਊਥਾਲ 'ਚ ਕੀ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਇਹ ਯੂਥ ਕਿੱਥੋਂ ਆ ਗਿਆ ਕਿਹਨੇ ਇਕੱਠਾ ਕਰਦਾ ਇੱਦਾਂ
The troubles began early as many of Southall's 30,000 nations, a fifth of the town's population, blocked off every road to the town hall. By now it was a town under siege. There was no access to the centre. Queues of policemen and police horses guarded each alleyway. Every shop was closed or boarded up. At the end of the day, there were more than 300 arrests and many were injured. Among those injured were several policemen. The National Front was smuggled into the town hall through a back street, but no one, apart from the party faithful, were allowed inside with them. Keith Hatfield, News at 10 in Ealing.
Blair Peach actually died in the front garden of my friend's house on Orchard Avenue. And I remember her talking about it because they were in the house locked up and there was, I think, some sort of stampede as the police rushed down Orchard Avenue. And Blair Peach had been struck and he'd been struggling to basically stay upright and he collapsed and died in her front garden.
It was quite shocking and the very thought that, he was a teacher from New Zealand, I remember, and he had come out there to, stand up against the National Front, he was showing solidarity. It was just a tragic way to go.
ਉਸ ਟਾਈਮ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਅੱਛਾ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਵਰਕਰ ਕਾਮਰੇਡ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬਲੇਅਰ ਪੀਚ ਹੈ ਅਸੀਂ ਗਵਾਇਆ ਅਸੀਂ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਨੂੰ ਸਲੂਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ
Southall Black Sisters were set up to basically respond to domestic violence and to actually stand up for those women who were finding it difficult to stand up for themselves in the home. There was domestic violence, there still is domestic violence in Southall. There's no doubt about it, as there is anywhere. They had nowhere to go to, they had no one to talk to. There was nobody who understood what their rights they could have. So they had no choices or no options. So the Southall Black Sisters was absolutely crucial in its being set up to be able to give representation to those women who need to understand their rights, but to also have somebody looking out for them, standing behind them saying, we're here to support you. There needed to be a lobbying force, not just to sort of provide casework on a day-to-day level to those women who were coming through the door, but to change the laws as well. Change the laws in the way that the women were treated by the legal system, give fair representation. Those were the key reasons for why I think the Southall Black Sisters was set up.
It's the people that make a place, not just a place. And the people around Southall remind us of our history, our background, but also it's got a very unique fighting spirit. Southall has always been a centre point of whenever our communities face problems. That has been a point where they have got together, they have stood up, they have fought up and created examples for us, our communities, in other parts of England.
अपने मोदे ने चिप्स ऑन द शोल्डर ने गोरे की हाथ आए के जरा असि काले खड़े नहीं हो असि काले आ कर देना ओ असि परसुएशन साडा बुनियादी विन ओवर साडा पंजाबी स्लोगन है साउथ ने बुलडोज करना हिट बैक करना साडा स्लोगन नहीं है असि इसे नहीं अपनी कम्युनिटी दे विच लाइफ टू करके सेल्फ बिल्डर करके राजर फोर टू से बेशुमार वाइट लोग साडी कम्युनिटी दे इस कॉमन